Pointed tensions creeping between Washington and Pyongyang. Let's get some perspective with Dorothy Parvaz. She is the global politics reporter at ThinkProgress, a progressive analytical news website. So, Dorothy, I want to get your thoughts on where you think and what you're seeing, where things stand between Washington and Pyongyang. We saw these missile tests happen. We also saw the United States acquire a ship belonging to the DPRK. What does that do to this relationship at the moment?
Okay, well, I think the Trump administration is clearly downplaying these tests, right? And only one of them represents a new capability, by the way. So they have to downplay that because they want talks to continue. Special Envoy Began's, in Seoul right now as part of this effort. If they were to say, okay, this represents, the next level of escalation, that would further damage things. In terms of them acquiring the ship, and that's just them showing that they're serious about sanctions. The ship, I believe, was called the Wise Honest and was, I believe, a coal ship, and that is almost 50%. The minerals are 50% of North Korea's exports, and coal is a large portion of that. So that stands to reason that they're showing North Korea that they're serious about sanctions.
You mentioned, and we saw there are so many meetings happening right now. The U.S. has an envoy in the region talking with the ROK and with Japan. We also saw Kim Jong-un travel to Russia to meet Vladimir Putin. So what does it say about the progress, or the process rather, that is taking place on the diplomatic level?
Well, the Trump administration is still sticking with this all or nothing, which is not working out for North Korea at all. Kim Jong-un wants a reciprocal step-by-step process to take place. And since the Trump administration is not following along, Chairman Kim is showing that he has other options by speaking to people like Putin and maintaining close relationships with China. Meanwhile, the Trump administration is realizing that they can't just do things the way the president would like, which is purely bilateral. So that's why you're seeing Stephen Biegun, in advance of Chairman Kim's visit to Russia, going there to speak to him. This is not a small thing. And Fiona Hill, who is John Bolton's Moscow expert, also the same day flew to Russia to have this conversation as well.
And more importantly, South Korea's President Moon Jae-in speaking there on television, saying he really wants to see a fourth summit between he and Kim Jong-un. I mean, really, they're neighbors. They're the closest neighbor. What do you see in terms of any progress there? I mean, they have had a relationship, an established relationship outside of everything else that is going on.
Sure, and this is what you're seeing with these missile tests and these rocket tests. This is North Korea signaling to South Korea that they need to make good on some of the negotiations that they've had and the promises that they've made to each other. However, the Trump administration is pursuing a different tactic. So we saw President Moon Jae-in here asking President Trump last month for sanctions exemptions, which he did not get, which makes it difficult for him to then pursue things. But the way North Korea sees it, these are agreements that they'd already made and they already had. So for them, what President Trump thinks is irrelevant. So, these short-range missiles put South Korea on notice. South Korea wants to pursue its own sort of path with North Korea, and the Trump administration wants something entirely different that doesn't even focus on the short-range missiles, focuses more on long-range missiles and nuclear weapons.
It's only been 2 months since Hanoi. It seems a lot longer, but could we possibly see another Kim-Trump summit down the road?
Well, they've said that's a possibility, and there's, in order for that to happen and I think actually bear fruit, unlike the other two summits, what we need is a lot more ground level agreements and possibly an understanding that, the U.S. will ultimately have to, in some measure, directly or indirectly, give into North Korea on some of these reciprocal demands.
Dorothy Parvaz, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.